Imagine finding a dead man on the beach, dressed like a gentleman but with no name, no identity, no past. A mystery that has challenged the police for over 70 years. A code that is impossible to decipher. A torn book with a sinister message. And a secret that may involve espionage, betrayal, or something much darker. Who was this man? Why did his body show no signs of violence but his face froze in an expression of terror? And why did someone leave anonymous flowers on his grave for decades? This case has all the makings of a fictional story, but it is real. And today, you will find out what we know and what remains hidden in the shadows. Don't leave yet, because what comes next may change everything you think about this mystery. It was a normal summer day in Adelaide, Australia, when two people were walking along Somerton Beach and saw something strange. A well-dressed man, wearing a suit and tie, lying on the sand as if he were sleeping. But something was wrong. He didn't move, not even when a mosquito landed on his face. When they got closer, they discovered that he was dead. The strangest thing? All the labels on his clothes had been cut off, as if someone didn't want us to know who he was. In his pocket, they only found a bus ticket and a pack of cigarettes, one of them unlit, stuck behind his ear, as if he had forgotten to smoke. The doctors found no signs of violence, but his face seemed frozen in an expression of pain. Had he died of poisoning? Or had someone done something to him? No one knew. And worst of all, no one knew who he was. And so began one of the greatest mysteries in history. Who was this man? Why was he there? And why did someone erase all traces of his identity? When the police searched the mysterious man, they found something hidden in the secret pocket of his gutters. A piece of paper with the words, Taman Shud, written in Persian. This phrase means finished or end, and it came from the last page of a book of poems called the Rubaiyat by the poet Omar Khayyam. But how did this paper get there, and why was it torn? The police discovered that someone had torn the page out of a book. Months later, a man found a copy of the Rubaiyat in the back seat of his car, and the final page was missing. On the back of the book was something even stranger, a handwritten code with scrambled letters like Wergo Ababd and Emli Yaoi. No one could decipher what it was. That meant not even the best code breakers in the world. Some thought it could be a secret message from spies, others thought it was just a meaningless sketch. And then the question remained, could this code hold the answer to the man's identity? Or was it just another part of the unsolved puzzle? To this day, no one knows for sure, and this piece of paper remains one of the most mysterious clues in the case. That strange code written in the book was like a giant challenge for the investigators. They called in the best experts in secret codes, including the FBI and even Australian intelligence agents, but no one could decipher what those letters meant. The sequences were Wergo, Bab DMLI, W Simpst D. Some people thought it could be a spy code, perhaps a message about secret places or the names of agents. Others thought it might be a type of cipher, where each letter represented another. Some even suggested that it was just random notes, meaningless. The most intriguing part? This was no ordinary code. Experts had tried everything from World War II codes to simple substitution systems, but nothing worked. It seemed that whoever wrote it had used a unique method, or had left clues that only he or she could understand. To this day, after more than 70 years, this code remains unsolved. Will someone ever be able to decipher it, or did the secret of the Somerton man die with him? The investigation led the police to a woman named Jessica Thompson, a nurse who used the nickname Jestin. She had a direct connection to the book found, as her telephone number was written on the cover of the Rubaiyat. When questioned, Jessica said that she had given the book as a gift to a lieutenant named Alfred Boxall during the war. But then came the first surprise. When they found Boxall, he was alive and still had his copy of the book intact. This meant that the copy found in the car was different. The second surprise was Jessica's reaction to seeing a reconstruction of the dead man's face. She was visibly shaken, almost fainting, but insisted that she did not know the man. Investigators became even more suspicious when they discovered that Jessica's son, Robin Thompson, had a striking resemblance to the Somerton man. Some facial identification experts even claimed that the dead man's face matched her family's characteristics. Could the mystery man have been Robin's real father? This family connection has never been fully confirmed, but it remains one of the strongest leads in the case. Why did Jessica react the way she did? What did she really know? These questions remain unanswered to this day. What really killed the Somerton man? Doctors found strange signs. His internal organs were swollen, his spleen was enlarged, and his liver was congested, symptoms that suggested poisoning. But tests did not detect any known poison at the time. Modern experts suggest that it could have been digitoxin, a heart poison that is difficult to identify. Theories abound. The first is espionage. In 1948, at the beginning of the Cold War, Adelaide housed secret military installations. The fact that the clothing labels had been removed, the mysterious code, and the man's possible foreign origins support this hypothesis. Could he have been a spy who was eliminated? The second theory suggests suicide. The phrase Taman Shud, the end, on the pocket could indicate this. But there was no vial of poison or suicide note near the body. Furthermore, witnesses saw him, conscious hours before his death, without suicidal behavior. The third possibility is murder. The poison could have been administered by someone else. Nurse Jessica's reaction and the fact that the man was seen with another individual on the beach that night lend weight to this idea. Some investigators believe that he was killed because he knew too much. The truth? More than 70 years later, we still don't know for sure. The lack of conclusive evidence keeps all these theories alive. The mystery remains. Was it a crime, a suicide, or an accidental death? Each explanation has its supporters, but none can be definitively proven. In January 1949, a month after the body was discovered, a brown suitcase turned up abandoned at Adelaide railway station. The connection to the case? A minor detail, the suitcase was sewn with an orange thread identical to that used to repair the pocket of the Somerton man's jacket. Inside were items that only made everything more confusing. Quality clothing, but with all the labels carefully removed. Exactly like the dead man's clothes. An interesting fact, some of the pieces had the name T. Keane written on them, but investigations showed that this was probably a fake, since no one with that name had disappeared at the time. Among the most intriguing objects were a shaving kit with a sharp razor, a pair of precision pliers, a naval stencil used to mark cargo on ships, an unpainted painting knife, a red wool coat. The naval stencil suggested that the man might have worked on merchant ships or in the Navy. The precision pliers raised the possibility that he worked in electronics or watchmaking. But what was most striking was what was not there. Documents, photos, or any personal items that could identify the owner. This suitcase was supposed to solve the mystery, but it only added questions. Why would someone remove all the labels? Who? Was T. Keane? And why couldn't these ordinary objects lead us to the man's identity? Each clue seemed designed to confuse, not clarify. For decades, the Somerton man remained unnamed. But in 2021, scientists finally exhumed his body to extract DNA. A year later, researchers at the University of Adelaide, led by Professor Derek Abbott, announced a possible identification. Carl Charles Webb, a Melbourne electrical engineer, born in 1905. The evidence was compelling. Records showed that Webb disappeared in 1947, a year before the body was found. He had a technical background consistent with the instruments found in the suitcase. His face matched facial reconstructions of the deceased. Living relatives showed partial genetic compatibility. A curious detail, Abbott married Rachel Egan, a woman who tests suggested was the granddaughter of the Somerton man, an unexpected personal connection to the case he had been studying for years. But not everything is resolved. Some experts question, why would Webb be in Adelaide if he lived in Melbourne? How can we explain his possible knowledge of Persian poetry? What would make an engineer get involved in situations that would lead to a mysterious death? Despite the possible identification, the biggest mysteries remain. The code remains undeciphered, the cause of death has not been confirmed, and the exact circumstances of the case remain obscure. The story of the Somerton man proves that even when we find answers, new questions arise, keeping alive one of the greatest criminal enigmas of the 20th century. So curious. Did you think this story would end with all the answers? No way. The mystery of the Somerton man still holds secrets. And you know what's best? I have many other cases like this to tell you. There are ghost stories, lost treasure, unsolved crimes, all real, all mysterious, and all here on the same channel. So don't mess around, okay? Subscribe, activate the bell, and keep an eye out. Because the next story could be even more chilling than this one. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what do you think happened to the Somerton man? Will someone ever crack this crazy code? See you in the next video, if you dare.